listening to AM 1240 and 92.7 FM Nooga Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose, if you were somehow confused in that entire equation. And I want to talk about SEC quarterbacks. That's the show today. SEC quarterbacks and Nick Saban. I want to talk about Nick Saban too because he's a ridiculous person. And I want to know what it would take to get Nick Saban fired. What would it take to get Nick Saban fired? Because we look at all these coaching hirings and firings, and sometimes they seem obviously warranted, like maybe that guy should have been fired ages ago. And then sometimes a guy gets fired and you're like, but what did you actually fire him for? Like, was there something that you hoped to gain from that? So we'll get into all of that stuff. But start with the SEC quarterbacks, because the SEC has for years never been considered to be a quarterback-driven league if you look at all the different conferences in college football. And even the guys that you're looking at like next year, when you're talking about this guy can be a really effective quarterback, like none of the quarterbacks that anybody really appears to be looking at or looking forward to are really SEC quarterbacks, right? Like the number one quarterback that everyone's looking forward to last year, Sam Darnold from USC, Pac-12. In fact, a lot of Pac-12 guys get taken. Last year you had Jared Goff out of the Pac-12. Like the quarterback story, the quarterback mythos is not something that's really surrounded the SEC. But the SEC plays football the same way everybody plays football. And the one thing that you have to have, absolutely have to have, is a good quarterback. You don't have to have a great one, right? And in college football, I would argue that the quarterback is more of a foundational piece. He's not the be-all and end-all of your team. If you don't have the great one, you can still win football games. You can still win a lot of football games, right? Like that's the success of Alabama, is that Nick Saban has more or less been doing this with scrubs. He has not been going out here winning a ton of games with great quarterbacks. And I understand, like on the college level, like guys like Blake Barnett, actually pretty solid quarterbacks. But in terms of this guy is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen play college football, like we're not winning with those at Alabama, right? Like that's not part of the scheme. You use your quarterback as a foundational piece. If you have a perfectly good game manager and you've built everything else correctly, offense, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, secondary, if you've built all that other stuff correctly, your quarterback does not have to be the greatest quarterback. And in fact, if you have the best quarterback in the conference, that doesn't even mean that you necessarily are guaranteed to win. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. But let me just talk about like the quarterbacks that I think, just rank them, right, from worst to best in the SEC. And I'm going to leave out the places that are battling for quarterbacks currently, and I don't know who's coming out of there, right? Like I'm going to leave out Tennessee, even though I think it's ultimately Quentin Dormady. I couldn't give you a rating on him anyway because I haven't watched him really play. Felipe Franks down in Florida, going to leave him out as well for the same reason, and Nick Starkel for the same reason, right? So that leaves 11 guys. That leaves 11 guys. So in my rankings of these quarterbacks, this is how I have them ranked personally. You want to come at me? 800-8949 is our phone number. But here we go, right? Steven Johnson at Kentucky. I have him and Kyle Shermer tied for 10th. I thought Steven Johnson came out in Kentucky last year, did some really nice things. I need to see a larger body of work from that guy before I really trusted him. But he looked nice at points. He also looked horrible at points, right? Kyle Shermer had a good season. I think his season is inflated in large part because Missouri is so bad. Missouri is so awful. Kyle Shermer threw a lot of touchdown passes against non-SEC opponents. He threw a lot of touchdown passes in garbage time, like in games where like it didn't matter at that point that he was throwing touchdown passes. And I understand, like there's a lot of things to like about Kyle Shermer. I just ultimately don't think that he's that great of a quarterback. Number 9 for me is Drew Lock at Vanderbilt. I think that Drew Lock is doing a good job with what he has been given. He does not have a ton of weapons around him at Vanderbilt. He's got a running game, and that's about it. The offensive line is passable. The wide receivers are passable. The defense is good, not great. I think that Drew Lock's not necessarily in a position to maximize all of his talent. And as a result, you end up with a lot of really up and down games from him. Some games where he looks really good, some games where he looks really bad, and you can't honestly trust any of that. Number 8 for me, Danny Etling. Danny Etling is interesting because he is the quarterback that I'm talking about when I say if Danny Etling's your quarterback, he is a good foundational piece. If Danny Etling is the quarterback leading your team and the rest of your team is fine, you're going to be good, right? Like, you're not going to be great, but you're going to win 9, possibly even 10 games, and you'll be fine if he's your quarterback and everything else is straight. He's a game manager. He's not exciting. He's not thrilling. LSU's not going to be throwing the ball a ton with Danny Etling at quarterback, right? Like, Darius Geis is going to be a lot of running, and it's going to be a lot of running with him. This is not about a passing offense. And I understand Matt Canada's there. Matt Canada's an offensive guy. Matt Canada's a guy that loves to have his quarterbacks throw the football. But I'm telling you right now, LSU is not going to commit to that as long as Danny Etling is the guy throwing the ball. Shea Patterson is a guy that's a little bit underrated. I have him number 7 among SEC quarterbacks over at Miss State. Granted, like I said before, I could put him higher on the list. And a lot of people do believe that he is going to next year come out and just ball out. And I'll believe it when I see it. But again, the body of work is not very big. And I'm not going to take any particular struggling during the spring game. I've been saying this before. Don't trip off of spring games. They don't mean anything. They don't tell you very much. They tell you a little bit. Like, if a guy's got a strong arm, you can tell that watching a spring game. You're not going to learn anything else watching a spring game. So Shea Patterson, for me, he's number 7. Number 6 is Jacob Eason. And the reason why I don't have him higher, even though I want to have Jacob Eason higher, is because I did not necessarily like his development throughout the course of last season, which is to say, Jacob Eason came in and played really well for a freshman and continued to play really well for a freshman for the rest of the season. Like, he never made that leap. And by the way, I do think that next year is the year that he makes the leap. But again, for me to move him higher on the list, I have to see it. I actually have to see him make that jump. So I can't put him any higher than that. Number 5, I have Jacob Bentley. Jacob Bentley showed true signs of being the guy at South Carolina. So, like, they're already ahead of schedule offensively just by finding him. The Tennessee upset, if it taught you anything, is that the young man is poised. He's composed. He's a very good passer. I like the way that I like how accurate he is. When he throws a pass, he puts it in a place that only his guy can get it and nobody else. That, to me, is a great quality. I treasure accuracy in a quarterback above darn near everything else. Darn near everything else. I am very, very impressed with Jake Bentley. Jarrett Stidham is my number 4. I understand, because it sounds like I'm contradicting myself. I am not contradicting myself, but Jarrett Stidham doesn't have a giant body of work, right? 3 games really to work with. But I just think that plunking a guy down like that in Auburn, like that team is super talented. Like, outside of the quarterback position, that's a super talented football team that really ought to win more football games and ought to have won more football games than they did last year. Jarrett Stidham could be that guy, and I understand he just has 3 games under his belt. But I'm a Big 12 guy, so I did watch some Baylor games when he was over there. Look, Jarrett Stidham can play. The guy can ball. I've seen it. And again, he played in a similar offense, an offense that's going to ask him to use his feet, but again, have to make like very fast reads, fast throws. It's going to be a vertical attack. He's come to another school that plays the kind of ball that he's been playing. And I think that that's such a perfect fit. And I like what I've seen from him so far. And the other guys that have smaller bodies of work do not even have like whole games underneath them in the way that Stidham does. I don't feel uncomfortable putting him at 4. If you disagree, come at me, bro. Come at me, bro. Nick Fitzgerald is really good. This guy's about to have a breakout season. I think he's going to have a breakout season. I just tossing that one out there. And I'm really excited to get to number 2 and 1, so I'm just going to jump there. Jalen Hurts is my number 2. Jalen Hurts is my number 2. And it makes me upset. It makes me upset that like Tua possibly getting the starting job is even a conversation that we're having. Jalen Hurts to me is a guy that if Jalen Hurts played anywhere else in any other school and put up the year that he had, at Alabama, it would be absurd to talk about anybody else taking the starting job as a freshman, like some redshirt coming behind you, talking about, I might be able to get your job. Like fans looking at you in the spring game and going, yeah, let's go with this new guy. If anybody else had the season that Jalen Hurts had last year, this would be ridiculous, right? Like it would be absolutely preposterous. Jalen Hurts threw for 23 touchdowns last year, 9 interceptions. He completed 62% of his passes. He threw for 2,780 yards. And he can only get better from there. And by the way, and this is besides rumors that he got coddled a little bit. Like Nick Saban believed that Lane Kiffin held him back. And then what could he do under Steve Sarkisian? They worked together with him being the offensive coordinator for an entire week, for a whole 7 days. I mean, that's insane, right? That's insane. If anybody had the numbers that Jalen Hurts had as a freshman in any other school outside of Alabama, right, where the spotlight's on you, where you're playing in a national title game, where you're playing in multiple bowl games because, again, you're going to make it that far. If it were anybody else, the notion that somebody else could come in and take this guy's starting job would be insane. 23 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Insane. 130.1 passer rating. Insane. 62% of passes completed. Insane. 2,780 yards of passing offense. I haven't even talked about his rushing yet. What the dude does with his legs. I'm just talking as a quarterback, as a thrower of the football. If he had put up those numbers anywhere else, you're like, this guy's going to be great as a junior. Like when he finally hits his stride that he clearly has not hit yet because he did this as a freshman. When this guy hits his stride, he's going to be fantastic because people did have problems with Jalen Hurts' decision-making. They did have problems with the fact that his completion percentage drops to 42% when he's under pressure. They did have problems with the fact that his deep ball accuracy is not the greatest. But all of these things are things that you learn while playing football, right? Like the inherent nature of the quarterback position is that you get better the more you play it. He's going to get better at this stuff. He can only get better at this stuff, right? Like that to me is the craziest thing, that we're even having this conversation about this guy possibly having to lose his starting job to a freshman with a strong arm. Because that's all we know about Tua, is dude's got a strong arm. We don't know anything else. We don't know how accurate he'll be on intermediate throws. We don't know how accurate he'll be on short throws. We don't know anything about his decision-making. We don't know how he plays under pressure. We don't know anything about this guy, except that his arm is strong and the deep ball accuracy is kind of nice. What we know about Jalen Hurts is that he only has the best stats of any quarterbacking freshman in the history of the SEC. That's all we know about him. So why on earth is this even a conversation? And only at Alabama would that be a conversation. He plays in any other school, right? Jalen Hurts is doing what Jalen Hurts does at Missouri, and we're lighting the world on fire over this guy. Jalen Hurts does what Jalen Hurts does at Vandy, and we're bending over backwards to praise this guy. Jalen Hurts struggled down the stretch the last 3 games at Alabama, and we're trying to figure out how to replace him. And that, to me, is the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Our phone number is 423-800-8949. If you, in fact, disagree with me, which I'm sure some of you do. And Austin Allen is my number 1 quarterback. I've been saying it all year last year, and I've said it all year the year before last year. That boy, Austin Allen, is the truth. He is, in fact, the truth. He's the best quarterback in the SEC, and it's not even close. It's not even close. I read a headline that said, it was on Saturday Down South. I read a headline that said, how does Drew Lock stack up against other SEC East quarterbacks? And I read the headline really quickly, so I missed the part where it said East. And I got offended because nobody stacks up against Austin Allen in the SEC. As long as Austin Allen continues to draw breath on this earth and is a quarterback in the Southeastern Conference, he is the best quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. My thing is, where is the pressure coming on Brett Bielema? Because I love Brett Bielema, by the way. Like I am the biggest Brett Bielema fan. A man that talks like that just talks to talk. He doesn't think about what he says, he just says stuff, right? When you're in the media, Brett Bielema is a godsend. When you're in the media, Brett Bielema is the best guy in sports, right? Like guys that just say what they're thinking. They don't worry about the consequences. That stuff you like Josh Norman in the NFL, Russell Westbrook in the NBA. Brett Bielema is those guys, but the college football coach, right? But where's the heat coming for Brett Bielema? When at some point is this about to be put up or shut up time for Brett Bielema? Because you have an offense that is consistently one of the best offenses in the conference, in a conference that people heavily criticize for not being particularly great offensively. And then you have the best quarterback in the conference, and it's not close. It really isn't close. The only teams that gave Alabama any trouble last year, when you go down their entire schedule, there was Ole Miss, it was Arkansas, and it was Clemson in the national title game. The only way that you could give Alabama any trouble is if you scored 30 points or more, and your quarterback threw for more than 400 yards. And there were only 3 quarterbacks capable of doing that against Alabama last year, and they all did. Right? Chad Kelly threw for 421 yards. Deshaun Watson in the national title game, actually beating Alabama, threw for 420. Austin Allen threw for 400 yards. And keep that in mind, to put this into context, Arkansas in their game against Alabama had 473 yards of total offense. Austin Allen threw for 400 of them. He dropped 400 yards on Alabama and 3 touchdowns. He also had 3 interceptions. But I personally am a fan of that. Like a guy that's not afraid to throw against Alabama, you're going to throw some picks. It's part of the nature of playing that school. But the guy dropped 400 yards on Alabama last year, right? Like in the middle of a run where Alabama's defense was scoring points. That's how proficient they were. They were scoring points. Austin Allen put up 400 yards. Like if your quarterback is capable of doing that, why aren't we putting more pressure on Brett Bielema? Like, are we just okay? Like, we've just accepted the fact that like Arkansas, like, yeah, they're just going to do what they do. They win about 10 games a year. They never actually really contend or compete for beating Alabama. Like, we never put them in that list of who can knock off Alabama this year. And we have this conversation every year because like, what the hell else are we supposed to talk about? Like, just how good Alabama is all the time. So like, I get it. But like we never put Arkansas legitimately in that conversation. And I feel like that's a big failing of Brett Bielema's that we never legitimately put this school in that conversation, right? We talk about LSU doing it every year. LSU could be one of the schools. We talk about Auburn doing it basically every year of Gus Malzahn. Auburn can do it. Auburn can do it. Auburn can do it. Like Auburn never does it. And like Auburn is usually not even close. Right? Like Alabama has owned just about everybody else in the conference. And we still put the same handful of schools in that conversation. We never put Arkansas in that same conversation. And I just think when you have the guy who is the best quarterback in the conference in his senior year, your offense never seems to really stumble. Why don't we legitimately believe that you have a chance to knock off Alabama? Like, not even to really, really do it, just to have the conversation about how you might maybe be able to. Because we have that same conversation with everybody else. We have that same conversation with LSU. Have that same conversation with Auburn. Like, the teams that we've had that conversation with, like, we've had that same conversation, not this last year with Florida, but the year before with Florida, where it looked like, okay, Florida's actually really, really good. And then we thought like maybe Florida's got a chance to knock off Alabama. And then of course they didn't because nobody does. But we had that conversation. We never have this conversation about Arkansas. And Arkansas should be the school most qualified to be in that conversation. Right? Like I'm not wrong on this. Arkansas is the school most qualified to knock off Alabama. And even now that I'm saying it, it sounds ludicrous to toss them in that conversation, and I don't know why. You have the most consistent offense and the best quarterback in the conference by such a large margin. Why not? I think that's a big failing of Brett Bielema, and it's put up or shut up time for Brett Bielema and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Now, why can't you beat Alabama? Because Nick Saban exists. I want to talk about how ridiculous that guy is and why nobody can appreciate the NBA playoffs. Next, Clutch with Keon Rose.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
A morbid mystery in Sequatchie County, a badly decomposed body found by inmates cleaning up trash off of Highway 111. Sheriff Ronnie Hitchcock says the badly decomposed body was found face up down an embankment. County Mayor Jim Coppinger said on Tuesday, "We have to change the negative perception the public has of the Hamilton County schools." He says he's absolutely in favor of raises for classroom teachers, but not for giving a dime to administrators. An inmate from Catoosa County has gone missing and apparently walked off of a work detail on Monday. Brian Duke was apparently taken away in an unidentified car by an unidentified man. He's 49 years old with blonde hair and green eyes and has a tattoo of a raven on his left shoulder. The Tennessee House passed a resolution to amend the Tennessee Constitution to add this line: "We recognize that our liberties do not come from governments, but from Almighty God." Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect fair skies to continue through your nighttime. Mild again overnight, lows 60 to 62. Now for your Thursday, partly cloudy, continue dry, quite warm if not hot. Highs upper 80s. For Friday, scattered showers and thunder showers rolling through, highs upper 70s, looking good for the weekend. Get ready for Riverbend, June 9th through the 17th, featuring discounted admission now at area Circle K locations with big savings on Riverbend tokens at Food City for Riverbend 2017. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core. On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
You have to file your 1040 now. We will handle it for you now. Liberty Tax Service will sniff out every deduction, every benefit. Liberty Tax Service now. Red Bank, Saudi Daisy, Dayton. Liberty Tax Service now.
Need windows? Hey folks, do you need new windows? Good news. Window Depot of Chattanooga has a great special going on right now. 10 high-quality, energy-efficient double-hung vinyl windows installed for only $29.90. That's right, 10 double-hung vinyl windows, only $2,990. And yes, they qualify for the TVA rebates. Call 894-0011. Window Depot of Chattanooga today, located at 5950 Shalford Road. Call 894-0011 today.
If I'm the city's most intelligent man, it's because I take 2 shots of Mind Enhancement Complex every day. Nature's Finest keeps me stocked with my mainstay, Formula 4. That's where I start. Formula 4. Industrial farming, soil depletion, mineral empty food. I just say no. Ask about supplements, health, stamina, circulation, heart, prostate under control. Get the Nooga Radio David Toulis freebie. Save $2 on every 5. 20% off. Nooga Radio, the highway, nature's finest.
The American dream. Home ownership. Are you building equity for your landlord? Why not build that equity for yourself and your family? Rent No More is a no obligation, no cost program. It's designed to teach you the steps necessary and to coach you all along the path to home ownership. Integrity Mortgage Group is owned and operated by local expert Jeff Woody Woodburn. Jeff has been in the mortgage business for over 15 years. Born and raised right here in the Chattanooga area. Jeff is also known as the Lone Ranger. He's helped countless hundreds. Really eager to help you too. So don't wait. Come on, call Danielle right now. You need to reserve your spot for this exciting, informative event. Space is limited, so call now to reserve yours. It's free. 423-517-8004. 423-517-8004. 517-800-8004. Call 423-517-8004. Hey, Nooga Radio is proud to partner with Integrity Mortgage Group to bring you Rent No More. Reserve your spot for this exciting, informative event. Space is limited, so call now to reserve yours. It's free. 423-517-8004. 423-517-8004. Call 423-517-8004. Stop building equity for your landlord. Live the American dream. Home ownership with Rent No More. We'll see you there.
I have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
Here comes the bride, here comes the bride. She's walking down the street.
And she's wearing a stunning diamond ring that's a fraction of the cost that her man would have paid at one of those overpriced mall jewelry stores. Rick Davis has a plethora on quality diamonds and gold rings, and he wants to pass the savings on to you. Did I say plethora? How about overabundance? That's right, an overabundance of gold and diamonds. So before you decide to get crazy and pay full retail on an overpriced piece of jewelry from one of those cookie-cutter mall jewelry stores, come on out and see Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Top quality gold and diamonds at a fraction of the cost. Intermarital bliss with an engagement and wedding ring from Rick Davis. Hey, he'll also buy your gold and diamonds with cash, and more cash. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And there goes another happy bride.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
People don't appreciate the NBA playoffs, and we'll get to that in a little bit. They don't, and it's a problem that we have as Americans. So we just can't appreciate stuff. We don't know how to appreciate stuff. Like, you look at all these other countries in the world, the poorer nations of the world, and people are not as miserable as we are. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Let me give you some of these scores from yesterday, these baseball and softball updates here, because Ottawa, they won their District 5 AAA championship yesterday. Ethan Walls pitched an amazing game that allowed Ottawa to do that. Also, the bats came alive, and they ended up winning 12-1. And pretty impressive performance overall. And Ottawa moving on, as well as Chattanooga Christian. They ended up winning they ended up going on to go to the 7AA softball title. Excuse me. In the winners bracket, they beat Grundy County 8-2 at Chattanooga Christian, and Sequatchie County beat the Lady Yellow Jackets in the losers bracket 8-2 as well. So moving on to the 7AA softball title is Chattanooga Christian after beating Grundy County, and South Pittsburgh won their 4th straight district title. They won 14-4 over rival Marion County. It is their 4th straight District 6A championship. So congratulations to the South Pittsburgh Pirates. So you got all of that going on as well. I got a little out of control there at the end of the last segment, because it was two things that I'm very passionate about. in the SEC. Two things I'm very, very passionate about, which is I'm a big quarterback guy. I believe strongly in a team trying to build something around a really solid quarterback. And when you have Jalen Hurts and Austin Allen, it's weird that they don't get treated in the same way that other quarterbacks normally get treated, right? Like Austin Allen, if that talent is wasting away on any other team, we tear the coach to pieces. We don't tear apart Brett Bielema. And Jalen Hurts has been incredibly successful as a freshman quarterback, and we are looking to move on from that dude as fast as humanly possible. And I don't know why. He was nothing short of amazing last year. And yes, he started to decline a little bit down the stretch. A lot of quarterbacks do this. That's not an indication that he's going to decline going into this season. And I would take the more experienced Jalen Hurts, who set about every SEC quarterback record that there is, over Tua, who I like. Like, I see the guy. I see his Elite 11 stuff. He's good. He's really, really good. He doesn't have the experience that Jalen Hurts has. I would not take him over him. And it's not like Jalen Hurts just withered away and died at the end of last season. He declined, but he still played reasonably. And certainly in the mold of what it is that Alabama does design-wise, it's not like he played so poorly that he hindered Alabama from being in any way Alabama. Right? And then you got all the weird Lane Kiffin stuff going down to the end of the stretch there. Like, that's obviously going to change a lot of things. Anyway, Nick Saban. What would it take to get Nick Saban fired? What would it take to get Nick Saban fired? And I'm not going to lie, I got to give credit to where credit is due. This question actually came from a user on Reddit, on the college football subreddit, that someone said, like, if Nick Saban won 10 or 11 of his next, for every season from now on, but Nick Saban never made it to a national title game, how long until Nick Saban gets fired? And I thought that was such an interesting question because I just think it speaks to how great Nick Saban is. I don't know what Nick Saban could do now that would prompt him to get fired. If you're assuming he wins 10 games a year for the rest of his career, how does Nick Saban get fired? Because he's been coaching Alabama for 10 years. And this is what we've gotten out of Nick Saban for the last 10 years coaching Alabama, which, by the way, is why I have zero problem with the money that they gave him. Because you're paying a guy to help you win football games, and all Nick Saban has done since he's come to Alabama is have winning seasons and win. Okay? 5 national title appearances, 4 national titles, Nick Saban. With Alabama, he's got an 114-19 record. He's the fastest head coach to 200 wins, right? Like, his overall record is 205, 61-1. He's won 85.7% of his games with Alabama. He's won at least 10 games every season since that first 2007 season when they started 7-6. Nick Saban hasn't seen 7-6 again. He doesn't know what it looks like. He hasn't come close to not getting 10 games. He's got a lot of 12 and 13 game win seasons. And here's the thing, too. Nick Saban has beaten all the important rivals. He's 7-3 against Auburn. He's 10-0 against Tennessee. He's 8-3 against LSU. Right? 8-3 because of the year that they played in the regular season, then met in the national title game, and Alabama put the beat down. Right? Like, so you look at this and you go, wow. 7-3 against Auburn, 10-0 against Tennessee, 8-3 against LSU. What would it take for Nick Saban to be fired if Nick Saban won 10 games a year for the rest of his career? Right? Like, because the only way I think that Nick Saban could get fired is a sudden drop-off in production, right? Like, he doesn't win 10 games a year. But that's unfair because there's no way that he's going to ever dip below that. Like, he hasn't shown anything that looks like he's going to dip below 10 games a year. So to me, here's something that would have to happen for Nick Saban to get fired. This is what it would take outside of like a major scandal. This is what it would take for Nick Saban to get fired. Nick Saban, while winning 10 games a year for the rest of his career, understanding that Nick Saban is 65 years old, right? Like, it's just hard to fire a guy like at that age that's been that successful for that long, right? It's not one of those things where a coach, he loses it and you're just like, well, he's young, like he's lost it. This is as good as he gets. Maybe he needs a change of scenery. Like by the time you figure out that Nick Saban has quote unquote lost the step, like it's about time for Nick Saban to retire anyway. So at 65 years old, he wins 10 games a year for the rest of his career, coaching as long as he wants to. What would it take for Nick Saban to get fired? He would have to stop winning national titles. He would need to stop winning the SEC, which he's won 7 times. He would need to stop winning the SEC West. He would need to stop beating all of these rivals consistently. Like he would need to lose more games to Auburn. He would need to lose to Tennessee ever. He would need to lose to LSU more often. Because he's owned all of them. Those are the schools that the fan base wants you to beat. Like if you win nothing else ever again, don't lose to them. Alabama fans are like, oh God, don't lose to Tennessee. You've never done it. Like we don't want those bragging rights to ever wind up over there. We don't want to ever see it, right? That to me is what it would take to fire Nick Saban. And it's so weird because like you would need legitimately at this point, you would need like 4 or 5 years of Nick Saban not winning the SEC. You would need 4 or 5 years of Nick Saban not winning the SEC West. You would need 4 or 5 years of him not winning 10 games or more. You would need 4 or 5 years of him like losing to Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee. That's what it would take to get Nick Saban fired. You would need half a decade of really good, by the way, because he's still winning 10 games a year. Like that's our stipulation, right? Like he's still winning 10 games a year. You would need half a decade of really good for them to like think about firing Nick Saban. Because even at that point, who's to say that they actually fire him? And like the way that I look at it is take a look at Kentucky. Take a look at Coach Calipari. John Calipari has been at Kentucky for like 10 years also. And he has 1 national title. 1. He wins over 20 games a year. He makes the NCAA tournament every year. The Sweet 16 constantly. 1 national title. They won't fire him. Because everybody knows if you're going to fire a guy that great, and whether you believe that Calipari is only great because of the recruiting or that you actually think that he's a legitimately decent coach, which I think it's a mixture of the two. I think he's a really good recruiter. I think he's a great recruiter. And I think that he's a very good defensive coach. I don't think he's great at coaching offenses. So there's that. But even, no matter what combination of the Calipari struggle you fall down on, there is no getting around the fact that that level of success is something that other coaches are struggling to replicate. And if you fire this guy, who do you replace him with? Who do you replace John Calipari with at Kentucky that helps Kentucky still be Kentucky? Right? Like, who do you replace him with? Nick Saban has given you 4 titles. He's given you 4 natties. 4. Okay? He's given you 114 wins since he's been there. He's given you 5 national title appearances. He's given you 7 SEC titles. What more do you want from the man? There really should be nothing Nick Saban could do to get fired. Like, even entertaining this conversation is so weird because for Nick Saban to get fired, Nick Saban would have to suck for the next 5 to 6 years. That's what would have to happen. He would have to be terrible for the next 5 to 6 years. He would still be there for the next half decade. And even then, only at that point would you think about firing him. You wouldn't actually do it. Because if you fire Nick Saban somehow, like say like Nick Saban's production falls off and he's just not going to all the title games anymore, but he's still giving you an output of 10 wins. If he's still giving you that level of output, how do you justify a firing there? Right? Like people have People have held on to their job longer for less. My gosh, Bob Stoops out in Oklahoma. Bob Stoops has exactly one national title. And Oklahoma will never fire Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops does exactly that. He wins roughly 9 to 10 games a year. And Bob Stoops only has one national title for his time there. Bob Stoops does not win the Big 12 every year, and the Big 12 is awful and they don't play defense. Bob Stoops does not have the level of success. He's not the greatest recruiter, right? Like that. But is in talking about Nick Saban's resume, I failed to mention that Nick Saban turns in a #1 recruiting class annually. Annually. If he kept turning in #1 recruiting classes, you'd have to keep him just on the basis of that. Because who could you replace him with that would recruit like that? You can't. You can't. Like, for goodness sakes, like you look at Tennessee and Butch Jones. One big reason that Butch Jones is not out those doors already after all of the shenanigans that we've seen with that football team and late game scenarios, right? Like, Butch Jones has pulled stuff that would have gotten other coaches fired, and he's still coaching the Vols. And the reason why Butch Jones is still coaching the Vols is because he's a really, really good recruiter. And like, if you replace Butch Jones with somebody, there's no telling if that's going to be able to charge up recruits enough to bring in another top 10, top 5 recruiting class. We don't know. That's the reason why people are kind of looking at Butch Jones funny right now. It's like, you were disappointing last year. You were disappointing the year before because you had Vols fans going like, this is our year. This is our year. And people don't like saying this is our year and then it's not their year. People don't like that. And when you are disappointing, when you underachieve to that, it's not like you just got smoked. Like it was, this is our year. And then it turns out, you know what? We were just horrible. It was, this is our year. And it looked like we were doing it. It looked like we were the team of destiny. We were beating Florida late game. We were beating Georgia late game. And then all of a sudden, you hit a bump in the road and everything comes off the carts. You can't beat South Carolina. You lose disappointingly to Missouri. Like, it's just a bizarre sequence of events. But at least you can recruit. So now after all of that, you look at Butch Jones and dude's not recruiting. Well, what do we have you for? Like, Nick Saban, in order to no longer be the head coach of Alabama, would have to stink and stink incredibly for like the next half decade, right? If you allow him to continue to win 10 games a year, then he would have to have terrible recruiting classes. He would have to no longer win SEC titles. He would have to lose to Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU a lot more. And he would have to do it for the next 6 years. And even after all of that, because he would still be winning 10 games a year, he'd still be one of the most winningest coaches of all time. So how do you fire that? Someone explain that to me. Right? Like, Joe Paterno passed away, and before he passed away, like, there was the whole Jerry Sandusky situation that just exploded onto the scene. But if you look at Penn State and Joe Pa, Penn State was never going to fire that man. And Joe Paterno had not really competed for a national title in like a decade. Like, it had been years. And they were never going to fire Joe Paterno. Like, there's no situation under which you fire Nick Saban rationally. And I know we're just playing around with the hypothetical of it, but the fact that you can't even come up with a twisted enough situation to fire Nick Saban under just goes to show how successful that guy's been. It's been alarming and it's been insane. It's been insane. That resume there, that should be unfireable. Like, short of suddenly turning in 4 or 5 game win seasons, that should be unfireable. And even then, Because, like, even if Nick Saban started winning just 5 games a year, just randomly out of the blue for no good reason, like, even if that started happening, and there's no reason to believe that it ever would, even if that started happening, you'd have to look at all of that he's done so far, and even if you add five win seasons, he'd still be one of the winningest coaches ever. Right? Like, no one's gotten to 200 wins faster than him. Nick Saban's only losing season was in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, and his quarterback was Dante Culpepper, and he got injured. Right? Like Nick Saban even gets like a bad rap for the NFL time that he spent, where like we don't know how good he would have been at Miami if he had been able to stay long enough to put together the team that he wanted. His quarterback was Dante Culpepper, and Dante Culpepper was only ever good once. And we all know when Dante Culpepper was good. Dante Culpepper was only ever good when he was chucking the ball up to Randy Moss, because nobody could throw the ball to Randy Moss better than Dante Culpepper. You take Randy Moss away from Dante Culpepper, you have a very, very average quarterback. And he got injured. Like, Nick Saban was having none of that. He was not about to stay in the NFL and continue to stink for years and years and years. Nick Saban did not know what losing felt like, and once he tasted it, he did not like it. Went back to college. Let me recruit my talent. This NFL draft situation, not about it. And he went 7-6, 2007 in Alabama. And even had some of those wins vacated. But he went 7-6 and never won less than 10 games a year ever again. And when you combine that with the fact that every major rival that Alabama has, Nick Saban has completely dominated. Because to me, that's where a lot of guys lose. Like, the thing that Butch Jones had to do last year, Butch Jones had to beat Florida, and he had to beat Georgia. Like, I think Tennessee fans can put up with an awful lot if they get to beat Georgia and Florida. I think that patience comes from, well, the rivals, the bragging rights. We get to hang on to this for a year. You've got to beat Georgia. You've got to beat Florida. You've got to beat your rivals. Like, those are the games that matter. And Butch Jones still needs to beat Alabama at least once. He still needs to do it. I don't know how. I have no idea how in God's name he's going to do that. But he's still got to. People do not like it when you can't beat the rivals. And give it to Nick Saban. Nick Saban has done nothing but dominate the rivals completely since he's been in Alabama. What could Nick Saban do to get himself fired? Damn near nothing, really. Lunch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. The reason why you don't appreciate the NBA playoffs is actually a problem with your life. Next.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
Chattanooga's best kept secret, Boyd Speedway. Come see the fastest dirt late model drivers in the South compete for a purse every Saturday night. Pit gates open at 3, grandstand opens at 5. Racing starts at 7. Bring the whole family for a night of fun as they tear it up on the dirt track. Go to BoydSpeedway.net and check out the Dirt Simulator. BoydSpeedway.dirtsimulator.com. Chattanooga's best kept secret, Boyd Speedway. Fun-filled, outrageous racing. We'll see you Saturday night.
The UCRA Crate Late Model Event. Limited late models, crate late models, sportsman, hobby, and street stocks.
Boyd Speedway.
Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Picture that curl of steam rising from your fresh-made pizza. And in a flash, let it take you aloft, teasing all your senses. I'm talking about Jets Pizza. If you eat out at Jets in Hickson or take home your steaming deep dish square pizza, you'll love Jets. They use only the best ingredients in a family recipe. Also try the cheesy bread, wings, chicken, or bread with bacon, antipasta or Greek salad. Jets Pizza at Buy Low near the S-Curves. Open till 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. You can order online or have it delivered. JetsPizza.com. That's JetsPizza.com. Or call them now. They'll have it ready when you get there. 757-1616. That's 757-1616.
Jets Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Final expenses, funeral cost, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1. Green checkered flag is out.
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa. W224AZ Chattanooga.
WSDT Sunny Daisy Chattanooga.
Today, the whys behind the FBI director's firing.
The rank and file of the FBI had lost confidence in their director.
Airline issues. From service to problem engines to your laptop. This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Dave Barrett. President Trump on why he fired FBI Director James Comey.
He wasn't doing a good job.
A White House spokeswoman says the president started thinking about firing Comey after the election. Sarah Huckabee Sanders calls it an erosion of confidence, and she says it wasn't just here at the White House.
The rank and file of the FBI had lost confidence in their director.
But many agents who've spoken with CBS News say otherwise. One says the vast majority of the Bureau favored Comey. Sanders says Mr. Trump is considering a trip to FBI headquarters to boost morale.
CBS's Stephen Portnoy. Virginia Democrat Senator Mark Warner says Comey's been invited to speak to the Intelligence Committee next week.
I think Jim Comey ought to have his, if not his day in court, at least his day on the Hill to be able to lay out his side of the case.
Late word now that former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn has been subpoenaed by the Senate Intelligence Committee to provide documents he's got related to the Russia election probe. Our Justice Department reporter Paula Reed says FBI Acting Director Andrew McCabe is said to be one of 4 interim candidates to succeed James Comey.
They're all top government officials. 2 of them are running FBI field offices, one in Chicago, one in Richmond. The other is a high-level official at FBI headquarters.
CBS's Elizabeth Palmer caught up with Russian President Vladimir Putin just about to play hockey in Sochi today. Asked about Comey's firing, he said through an interpreter,
We have nothing to do with it.
President Putin made it quite clear that Russia doesn't view James Comey's firing as having any bad effect on Russia-U.S. relations. He said it's entirely an American matter.
Airline passengers flying to the U.S. from Europe may have a problem not being allowed to carry electronic devices on board. CBS's Chris Van Cleef.
Airline sources tell us they've had growing indications the expanded ban could include all European airports with flights bound for the United States. And airlines have started to make preparations for what they would view as a worst-case scenario there. There's a lot of concern on the part of the airlines about how this would work.
After surveying 11,000 passengers, J.D. Power's Michael Taylor says things appear to be getting better for the flying public.
Our data shows that as a whole, the airline industry has been making marked improvements in customer satisfaction across a variety of metrics, from ticket cost to flight crew.
And which airlines ranked as the best?
Alaska Airlines in the traditional category. They've won it for 10 years in a row now. And then in the low-cost category, Southwest ended JetBlue's 11-year reign at the top.
American Airlines wanted to fly the 737 MAX this fall. Flight tests, though, are on hold. They have issues with engine turbine discs. Wall Street, the Dow was down 39. Now this.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past few years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage, $75 per month level rate for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco can obtain $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110 per month, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rate guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. If you're a smoker, we have great rates available for you as well. At Term Busters, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. If you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call today for a quote at 1-800-569-5440. That's 1-800-569-5440. You're probably paying more than you should. Call Term Busters, 1-800-569-5440, or visit our website at termbusters.net. Remember, 1-800-569-5440. Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting. Exam required to qualify.
Education Secretary Betsy DeVos angered African Americans by saying black colleges were the first to offer school choice. Today, she was not warmly received at commencement at Florida's Bethune-Cookman University. Peter King was there to see and hear it.
The boos began as DeVos stepped to the podium. They only got louder.
I am honored to become a Wildcat.
While most of the boos came from the stands, much of the graduating class stood with their backs to the stage. At least one person was escorted out. Bethune-Cookman President Edison Jackson interrupted and told students if they didn't stop,
your degrees will be mailed to you. Choose which way you want to go.
Earlier, Jackson said DeVos's appearance helped open a dialogue with the Trump administration, saying you can disagree without being disagreeable. Peter King, CBS News, Daytona Beach.
Kurdish forces in Syria have captured the Tabqa Dam, the largest one in the country, that had been held by ISIS. You're listening to the CBS World News Roundup.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
A morbid mystery in Sequatchie County, a badly decomposed body found by inmates cleaning up trash off of Highway 111. Sheriff Ronnie Hitchcock says the badly decomposed body was found face up down an embankment. County Mayor Jim Coppinger said on Tuesday, we have to change the negative perception the public has of the Hamilton County schools. He says he's absolutely in favor of raises for classroom teachers, but not for giving a dime to administrators. An inmate from Catoosa County has gone missing and apparently walked off of a work detail on Monday. Brian Duke was apparently taken away in an unidentified car by an unidentified man. He's 49 years old with blonde hair and green eyes and has a tattoo of a raven on his left shoulder. The Tennessee House passed a resolution to amend the Tennessee Constitution to add this line: we recognize that our liberties do not come from governments, but from Almighty God. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
Expect fair skies to continue through your nighttime. Mild again overnight, lows 60 to 62. Now for your Thursday, partly cloudy, continue dry, quite warm if not hot. Highs upper 80s. For Friday, scattered showers and thunder showers rolling through. Highs upper 70s, looking good for the weekend. Get ready for Riverbend, June 9th through the 17th, featuring discounted admission now at area Circle K locations with big savings on Riverbend tokens at Food City for Riverbend 2017. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ward on Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
So I ranked the SEC quarterbacks. I'll go down that again really quickly before I give you my opinion on the NBA, the playoffs, the reason why Americans are so depressed. No, this is all connected. It's all connected. I know I sound like some kind of bizarre conspiracy theorist. In my room is a giant bulletin board and a bunch of red yarn connecting different things to each other. But I promise you it is all connected. The reason why Americans can't enjoy the NBA playoffs. It's because we don't deserve good things. I can't explain it to you in short. I have to explain it to you in full. But first, let me give you my SEC quarterback rankings because, and you're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. If you want to discuss these quarterback rankings, call 423-800-8949, 423-800-8949. Tied for 10th place, I have Steven Johnson at Kentucky. I have Kyle Shermer at Missouri. I think they both show signs of being good quarterbacks, but I don't trust either of them. Drew Lock, his team is too limited to really tell how good he can be. He's not bad, but that team is, and he hasn't played particularly well against SEC competition. Danny Etling is average. He is such an average quarterback. He's the most average quarterback that ever averaged, and that's not a bad thing. I think that's what LSU needs right now. They certainly need an average quarterback more than they can stand to have a bad one. Danny Etling will give them everything they need. They'll just rely a lot on Darius Geis to continue moving the ball forward. Shea Patterson is better than what he looked like in the spring game. I think a full offseason of work, Shea Patterson comes back and he's going to be pretty brilliant. Jacob Eason still needs to make the leap. He's really, really good. And I believe he will make the leap, which is why I have him at 6. Even though last year I saw it was an up and down year, but he was a freshman quarterback. Look, people need to realize that simply being a great quarterback prospect is not enough for you to go out there and dominate things in full and in totality, right? Matt Stafford is, according to Chris Goforth, who's a good friend of mine, Matt Stafford is the best quarterback he's ever seen, like live. And Matt Stafford didn't play as a freshman. So it was kind of crazy, the idea that Jacob Eason would play as a freshman. He did play as a freshman. And he's still got a lot of growing to do, right? So you've got that. Number 5, Jake Bentley. Jake Bentley is a guy, he can take this to the next level. He can take South Carolina to being a school that we thought was a year or two away from really competing. We can put South Carolina ahead of schedule if you get really good performances from Jacob Bentley. And I expect Will Muschamp to turn that defense around some more this season. That's his specialty. So, again, adding a great quarterback and a solid offense into the mix probably puts South Carolina further ahead of schedule than we possibly could have imagined. Jarrett Stidham over at Auburn, I think he's special. I do. I'm not saying that I know why. I don't necessarily have a large number of games to base this on. He's only played in 3, but I did watch all 3 games, and so I think that does influence my opinion somewhat, that I do have a lot of faith in Jarrett Stidham and his ability to lead Auburn. He's a very talented quarterback. He's mobile. He's got a strong arm. He's very accurate, and you're putting him on a team that's also very talented offensively. This is everything that Gus Malzahn needed. If he can't get it done this year, that man needs to get the boot. 2, Jalen Hurts. Oh, skipped 3, Nick Fitzgerald. 2, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, to me, is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the SEC. If he plays on any other school, like any other school, with the numbers that he put up last year, the 23 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, the 62% of his passes completed, he threw for over 2,700 yards. He does that anywhere else, and we're talking about how Jalen Hurts is a guy that could possibly make the leap. He is going to make the leap, but for some strange reason, we want to replace him with Tua, whose last name I can't pronounce. Granted, Tua is very good and looked really good in the spring game, but guys, you cannot just trip off of a spring game like that. You simply can't. We saw what Jalen Hurts was capable of last year. He was dynamic. And the reason that Alabama did not have a quote-unquote down year, because that was one of those things. We were like, well, here comes Alabama. They're going to have a down year for Alabama. And they didn't. And he's a huge part of the reason why. Right? Like his ability as a quarterback to keep Alabama in games where when teams did come close to beating them, they came really close. Okay? They put up over 400 yards of offense. And of course, number one in the SEC is Austin Allen. That boy is the truth. In fact, we should just start calling Austin Allen the truth. Right? Paul Pierce retired. He's not using that nickname anymore. Austin Allen is the truth. Austin Allen he throws a large volume of touchdowns. He's asked to go out there and win ball games with his arm. He does. Against Alabama, Reuben Foster, Jonathan Allen. He throws for 400 of his team's 473 yards, 3 touchdowns. My question is, when do we start putting Brett Bielema on the hot seat for underachieving with all of this talent? He's always had talent running the ball. He's had talented wide receivers over the years. He has the most talented quarterback in the conference. What are we waiting for with Bielema? To me, this is the make or break year for him. It should be. I'm not saying it is, but it should be based on all the talent he has. And no other coach would we allow to get away with that. And it could just be that Brett Bielema has gotten by on this lovable personality of his, that he's such a fun, entertaining, witty guy that we just give Brett Bielema a pass we don't give to anybody else. But I'm telling you right now, if Butch Jones had at Arkansas what Brett Bielema has and underachieved with that, we'd be killing Butch. We'd be killing him. Brett Bielema underachieves. Nothing. Nothing at all. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Why can't we appreciate the NBA playoffs? The reason why we can't appreciate the NBA playoffs is because of 2 reasons. Americans don't know how to live in the now, which is a pretentious sounding cliche because it kind of is. Let's sort of live in the now, but basically just appreciate what you have right this moment and stop looking ahead all the time, always. And we don't know how to give up good for great. Those 2 ideas seem to contradict, but they don't really. Let's start with the first one. We don't know how to live in the now. We don't know how to appreciate what we have. We complain and whine and moan about how bad the playoffs are. We complain and whine and moan about how bad and boring the NBA regular season is. But when you look back at the NBA regular season, was it really all that bad and boring? We had more fights in the NBA than we've ever had, which I don't know about you, but I am wildly entertained by basketball player fights, in large part because a basketball player can hit another player and actually do damage, right? Like baseball and basketball are the only 2 sports where that can actually happen because everybody else is wearing a helmet. So that's one. We've had more of those than we've ever had. We had statistically crazy years from everybody. We had a statistically crazy year from Kawhi Leonard. We had, in terms of efficiency, we had statistically crazy years from LeBron. This is LeBron in his 14th year. He's playing basketball better than he's ever played it. We had a statistically crazy year from John Wall, who was completely covered up by the statistically crazy years from both Russell Westbrook and James Harden. The MVP conversation in the NBA, this is the most interesting it's ever been. We've never had an MVP conversation in basketball where it was this good, where the conversation lasted weeks. We've never had one this good. Usually because the NBA MVP is between LeBron and somebody, and it's Jordan and somebody. And I think this year in the regular season, without the shadow of a doubt, the two most valuable players in the league, and I would toss in Kawhi Leonard because it would have been Kawhi Leonard. It still would have been Kawhi. But those guys played at such a high level that even though John Wall and even though Isaiah Thomas put up numbers that may have won them the MVP in years past, we saw so much outrageous stuff. It was crazy. We had the Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant beef that I heard recently ended. But throughout the season, that was fun. Every time Golden State went to go play OKC, it was fun and entertaining besides the game because we all knew that game was going to be a blowout. But all the preliminary stuff, all the extracurricular stuff was amazing. The jawing back and forth. The fact that Steph Curry dunked in a game blows my mind, right? Like we just have all of this extra drama in the league around the association. So people complaining about the regular season, is this really the most boring regular season you've ever experienced? Is it really? And then people talk about the boringness of the playoffs, but look, you've got the Wizards and the Celtics giving us a great Eastern Conference series, and you've got the Spurs and the Rockets giving us a great Western Conference series. And I think that the reason why people are hung up on the playoffs being sort of outrageously lopsided is because you've got to look at Golden State and you've got to look at Cleveland running through those other teams. But the playoffs is not just Golden State and Cleveland. We understand where it's going to end, but right now we are getting two great series from four really good teams, right? Like Boston and Washington have been fighting each other all year. They hate each other so much. And the Spurs and Rockets have history. They're rivals. They're right down the highway from each other, I-35. Like, to me, that's great basketball. And I would rather focus on that right now while it's still good, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen in the next conference. Maybe Washington pushes Cleveland, maybe. Maybe San Antonio or Houston push Golden State, maybe. But regardless, right now we're getting good basketball. And Americans don't know how to appreciate what we have right now. We're always looking down the road at somebody else's stuff. Right? Like we're looking down the road and going, well, it's been lopsided. Did you see it? Golden State swept Utah. Did you see it? Did you see it? Cleveland swept Toronto. I don't like it. I don't want it. Come on, man. The other two playoff series are amazing. The overtime game in Boston, Cleveland, the overtime game in Houston, San Antonio, like those games were great. We got a vintage Manu Ginobili performance. Manu Ginobili hopped in the time machine yesterday and did stuff I haven't seen Manu Ginobili do in 7 years. Manu dunked. Manu blocked a shot at the end of games. Manu had a vicious Euro step that got him to the basket to tie up a ball game at the end of the fourth quarter. Like, he was doing everything out there. Absolutely insane. We got a crazy game from Kawhi Leonard up until the moment he got injured. Like, when do we look at this series and go, like, this is amazing what we're seeing here? Absolutely amazing. And then you look at Boston and Washington, and you've got a point guard duel for the ages. You've got the undersized underdog Isaiah Thomas, scores whenever he feels like it, gets to the bucket at will against the Wizards, who are a more well-rounded unit, but you've got John Wall, who's a playmaker everywhere. The passes, the fact that it looks like he's got literally eyes on the back of his head. I've never seen a guy play with this much confidence in the playoffs on a team that we don't even think is going to make it to the finals. It's fun to watch, and seeing a guy finally make this superstar leap in his prime. This is fun. This is actually fun. And everyone's looking at the playoffs and going, yeah, but they're not going to make it to the finals. Why don't you appreciate what you have now? When you look at Americans, right, and the stats on depression and anxiety in America, 1 in 3 Americans are very happy. So 66% of us aren't happy. 66% of us aren't happy. Well, gee, I wonder why that is. Could it be that we always look down the road? Yes, it is actually. Because when you look at the scientific studies of it, People who are sad and depressed tend to be younger. They tend to be younger. What is it that older people know, that older people have figured out, that us young people haven't figured out? That you have to live in the moment. Like, you can't worry about what's going to happen 30, 40 years down the road. That's what young people worry about. We're being crushed by college loan debt. We're being crushed by all of these other factors, and we're trying to figure out right now how are we going to survive 20, 30 years down the road, right? Like, we hear on the news all the time about how the environment's dying and all these other stuff, and we just worry and we worry and we worry. Older people have just come to the realization that, like, look, man, you've just got to deal with the problem in front of your face. Like, not saying that the other stuff isn't something to pay attention to, but you've got to deal with the problem in front of your face before you deal with anything else. And don't panic about every problem that you can't solve right now, right? Like, when you get into your 40s and 50s, I imagine, I don't know, I'm 26, but just from taking time to listen to people with more life experience than myself, when you get into your 40s and 50s, that's the point in your life where you realize, look, I'm going to handle the things that I can handle, and I'm not going to struggle with the things that I can't fix. Because Americans have this huge problem with this, and most basketball fans tend to be younger and look at the NBA Finals and then look at the rest of the stuff and go, yeah, it's all pointless. Never mind that we're getting great basketball, and we're getting great basketball right now. The other stuff makes it pointless. Yeah, okay. Just don't know how to appreciate anything. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. And to my other point, we don't appreciate these NBA playoffs because we don't know how to give up good for great. Right? Like, one of the reasons why we like teams that play unselfish basketball, why we like the Warriors and we like the Spurs and we like the Rockets and we like the Wizards and we like the Celtics. All of these teams pass the ball a lot. They move the ball around. And we move the ball around more than we ever did in the 90s. Charles Barkley was not passing the ball like this. Michael Jordan was not passing the ball like this. Because you can give up a good shot for a great shot. I believe, honestly, that Kobe Bryant could have been a better player if he had passed the ball more. Kobe took a lot of good shots for Kobe. Kobe could have given up a lot of good for great. He didn't. You've got to be able to give up good for great. Well, good is wide open. Good is anybody can win it. Yeah. Great is you end up with a Titans battle. Great is we have a real rivalry across conferences again. When was the NBA at its best? Magic. Bird. This is the closest we've been. You have two teams meeting each other in the finals year after year after year. This is what Mayweather and Pacquiao should have been like if Mayweather and Pacquiao fought in their primes. We don't know. We have Cleveland and we have Golden State in a trilogy of a fight, in a war. They fight every single year. You can book it. And that to me is great. I don't mind giving up a wide open field where anybody can win it because there isn't anybody to really hold on to for great. Give me the trilogy. Give me the power. Look, I'm a Wizards fan. Okay. If the Wizards were capable of knocking off Cleveland and going to the finals, yeah, give me that for sure. But I know I'm not going to get that, right? Like, there's no way Cleveland loses to Washington, regardless of whatever happens in this series. Like, if Washington's able to get past Boston, there's no way. Like Washington might win one or two games. They might win one or two, possibly at home in Washington. There's going to be too much LeBron eventually, and they're not going to win. But I'm okay with that because I'm giving up good for great. Don't you actually want to see how this pans out? Like, this is the greatest 3-year championship stretch in the history of the NBA. This is better than the Shaq and Kobe three-peat. It's better than Michael Jordan's three-peats, both of them. It's better than the years that the Pistons made it, because the Pistons didn't make it 3 years in a row. They only made it 2 years in a row to the NBA Finals. It's better than when the Lakers were running the Western Conference. It's better than the 60s. Like, this is the best 3-year stretch of basketball, of championship basketball, that we have ever had, because we actually have a rivalry in the title game. And it was a rivalry that was created in the title game. Only the NBA can offer you something like that. And people are whining and complaining about it because, well, they blew out the Jazz. Give up good for great. Like, there are people that jump from job to job and they're never satisfied with the job that they have because they keep taking a bunch of good jobs, right? But they're never fulfilling jobs because they never wait long enough and they're never patient enough to get that great job. Give up good for great. Stop whining about the NBA playoffs. We're about to have like the greatest NBA finals in the history of the sport. Will you calm down for half a second? Enjoy the good games that you have now. And then when we get to the NBA finals, it'll be great. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Make sure to check us out on NoogaRadio.com. The Atlanta Braves find themselves with the weirdest of old man stats. Next.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
A morbid mystery in Sequatchie County. A badly decomposed body found by inmates cleaning up trash off of Highway 111. Sheriff Ronnie Hitchcock says the badly decomposed body was found face up down an embankment. County Mayor Jim Coppinger said on Tuesday, "We have to change the negative perception the public has of the Hamilton County schools." He says he's absolutely in favor of raises for classroom teachers, but not for giving a dime to administrators. An inmate from Catoosa County has gone missing and apparently walked off of a work detail on Monday. Brian Duke was apparently taken away in an unidentified car by an unidentified man. He's 49 years old with blonde hair and green eyes and has a tattoo of a raven on his left shoulder. The Tennessee House passed a resolution to amend the Tennessee Constitution to add this line: "We recognize that our liberties do not come from governments, but from Almighty God." Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
Expect fair skies to continue through your nighttime. Mild again overnight, low 60 to 62. Now for your Thursday, partly cloudy, continue dry, quite warm if not hot. Highs upper 80s. For Friday, scattered showers and thunder showers rolling through. Highs upper 70s, looking good for the weekend. Get ready for Riverbend, June 9th through the 17th, featuring discounted admission now at Area Circle K locations with big savings on Riverbend tokens at Food City for Riverbend 2017. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
How about we change that to Built in the USA? For over 21 years, Affordable Computers has been building computers right here in the good old USA, in Chattanooga, using the highest quality parts and components in every new computer they build. Tell us the exact system you need, we'll build it to your specifications. Or you can choose from a wide selection of our PCs and laptops, starting at under $200. All Affordable Computers are upgradable, guaranteed. Affordable Computers services their computers in store, typically within 1 to 3 days. And when you call, they answer the phone. You get support within minutes that you can understand. Affordable Computers of Chattanooga. And service and support extends for the life of the computer, not just for the warranty of the PC. So there's no reason to shop anywhere else. Call Affordable Computers now on Highway 58 Chattanooga, 423-499-1975. That's 423-499-1975.
Or visit our Fort O store, 706-858-5888.
You have to file your 1040 now. We will handle it for you now. Liberty Tax Service will snip out every deduction, every benefit. Liberty Tax Service now. Red Bank, Saudi Daisy, Dayton. Liberty Tax Service now.
Need windows? Hey folks, do you need new windows? Good news. Window Depot of Chattanooga has a great special going on right now. 10 high-quality, energy-efficient double-hung vinyl windows installed for only $29.90. That's right, 10 double-hung vinyl windows, only $2,990. And yes, they qualify for the TVA rebates. Call 894-0011. Window Depot of Chattanooga today, located at 5950 Shalford Road. Call 894-0011 today.
If I'm the city's most intelligent man, it's because I take 2 shots of Mind Enhancement Complex every day. Nature's Finest keeps me stocked with my mainstay, Formula 4. That's where I start. Formula 4. Industrial farming, soil depletion, mineral empty food. I just say no. Ask about supplements, health, stamina, circulation, heart, prostate under control. Get the Nooga Radio David Toulis freebie. Save $2 on every 5, 20% off. Nooga Radio, Lee Highway, nature's finest.
I have the best steak selection in town. The name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
Here comes the bride, here comes the bride. She's walking down the street.
And she's wearing a stunning diamond ring that's a fraction of the cost that her man would have paid at one of those overpriced mall jewelry stores. Rick Davis has a plethora on quality diamonds and gold rings, and he wants to pass the savings on to you. Did I say plethora? How about overabundance? That's right, an overabundance of gold and diamonds. So before you decide to get crazy and pay full retail on an overpriced piece of jewelry from one of those cookie cutter mall jewelry stores, come on out and see Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Top quality gold and diamonds at a fraction of the cost. Enter marital bliss with an engagement and wedding ring from Rick Davis. Hey, he'll also buy your gold and diamonds with cash, and more cash. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And there goes another happy bride.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
All I'm saying is this. I'm not saying that Americans are depressed because they can't enjoy the NBA playoffs. I'm saying they can't enjoy the NBA playoffs because of all of the reasons that they are depressed. There's a correlation there that if you don't enjoy stuff in your actual life, the things that are right in front of your face because you're stressing about stuff down the road, and you have this short-term mentality where you jump from good to good to good to good to good, but you never are patient enough to go from good to great, there's nothing that you can enjoy. Not just the NBA playoffs. Like, you literally can't enjoy anything. Like, what food could you enjoy? You don't wait long enough for great food to cook. You don't wait long enough to drive a long enough distance to a place where the food is great. You'll just keep eating good food. You won't eat great food. Right? Like, you don't enjoy anything. That's my point. No, like, you just don't enjoy stuff. And not just you. I'm just saying Americans in general just don't enjoy anything. Right? And I think that that's part of the NBA's playoff problem. And the NBA should address this because you have to react to your consumer base on some level. Right? And if your consumer base is not willing to sit through a playoff, like an entire set of playoffs, where you do have really good series in there, you just need to watch them. If they're not willing to sit through that, then yeah, you do have a problem. And it's kind of a no-brainer of a problem in terms of, like, we should have been trying to solve this yesterday, the same way that we are just now working on the I-24 split here in Chattanooga. That's a problem that's been a problem forever, since I've always lived here. I've lived here in Chattanooga since 2007. It's been a problem since 2007. Like the 24 split is not a place you want to be on a Friday afternoon. And God forbid it's during football season and you're trying to get to like a high school football game to cover it. You're never going to make it. Don't underestimate Chattanooga on a Friday. But that's a problem that should have been addressed earlier. Don't wait till problems need to be addressed later. Address them now. Do it now, right? So anyway, that's what I'm saying about this. Like the NBA does need to address it because people don't have that mentality, and you have to be aware of your consumer base. If your consumer base does not have a mentality that can appreciate Wizards Celtics, doesn't have a mentality that can appreciate Rockets Spurs, and the only thing that people are upset about is, well, look at these blowouts from Golden State and everybody, and look at these blowouts from Cleveland and everybody. Like what, you don't want a game with the greatest team ever? You don't want a game with the greatest player ever? Because that's what's at stake here. If you don't have a consumer base that's willing to give up good for great, then you have to help them along a little bit and at least make some of these series at least a little bit more even so we get more better series. So that's a whole deal unto itself. Right? And Ottawa, by the way, is playing Saudi Daisy right now in baseball. So that's something that is certainly happening. Ottawa getting an overwhelming victory yesterday. They win 12-1. 5 AAA championship. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. So the Braves find themselves in the weirdest of all positions because it is the Braves, and it wouldn't be the Braves if they did not find a very strange story to be involved in. And I suppose part of it, too, is that this particular season is not going well. So the things that you notice are the strange. And so you've got Carlos Beltran was playing for the Houston Astros yesterday. The Braves have Bartolo Colon on the mound, and both of these men are ancient men. Okay, Bartolo Colon is 44 years old. Carlos Beltran is 40, which is really old to still be playing baseball. I cannot believe Bartolo Colon is still in this league. Like only a sport like baseball could house Bartolo Colon. Bartolo Colon could not exist in any other sport. Only a sport like baseball could actually house Bartolo Colon. He's 44 years old. He does not look like a professional athlete in any kind of way. If you saw Bartolo Colon walking down the street and you did not know what Bartolo Colon looked like, would you peg that man for a baseball player? Bartolo Colon looks like your Uncle Vinny. Like he just like he's a bit heavy and he doesn't really move a lot. Like that's your idea of your Uncle Vinny. Like Bartolo Colon does not look like he ought to be playing baseball. 44 years old. Bartolo Colon is not just old. He is the oldest major leaguer. He is the oldest player active in the major leagues. Right? Like, Ichiro's the oldest. Bartolo Colon is the second oldest. He turns 44 later this month. He's 44 years old. And here's where this gets weird, right? Because Carlos Beltran is 40. Bartolo Colon is 44. Carlos Beltran first faced Bartolo Colon in 1998. Actually, on the same night that Cal Ripken finally ended his 2,632 game playing streak. Okay? Carlos Beltran was 21 years old at the time, called up to the Kansas City Royals. And he went 1 for 4 against 25-year-old Bartolo Colon. And by the way, 25-year-old Bartolo Colon was a beast of a pitcher. When he was 25, dude was a monster. They faced off 2 more times in 1999, and Beltran hit a homer against Colon for the first time in June of the year 2000. And then in 2001, Beltran hits 3 more homers off of Colon, including 2 in 1 game in June. But then the next 25 times that they faced each other over a span of 16 years, Carlos Beltran never hit a home run off of Bartolo Colon ever again. Right? So for the next 16 years, Carlos Beltran never hit another homer off of Bartolo Colon ever again until finally, last night, it happened. Finally, it happened. So here's a fun stat, right? Courtesy of ESPN. Here's a fun stat. There were 5,792 days between the last time that Carlos Beltran hit a home run off of Bartolo Colon, and it is the longest span of time between home runs by the same hitter off the same pitcher in the expansion era. So since 1961. Barry Bonds had gone 5,182 days between home runs of Jesse Orosco. So it was 1988, and then he did it again in 2002. Like, you just have to be playing baseball forever for this stuff to eventually happen to you. And only in a sport like baseball could this actually happen. And only with the Braves somehow could this actually happen. So there you go. The Atlanta Braves are involved in the longest span of time between home runs, between one hitter and one pitcher ever. Beltran hits a home run off of Bartolo Colon in 2000 and then does not hit a homer off of him again until 2017. Which, and I should not have to point this out, is half of my entire life, just about. More than half of my entire life. The time that Beltran spent not hitting homers off of Bartolo Colon is more than half of my entire life. That's crazy to me. That's absolutely crazy. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. So here, I got a story that to me sort of, I don't understand it. Let me put it this way. This is a story that lets me know that I don't understand people very well. And maybe it's not just me. Maybe it's him. Right? Our phone number is 800-8949 if you want to talk about it. Maybe it's not just me. Maybe it's him. But this whole Matt Harvey New York Mets situation got really weird really fast. First off, the Mets are not playing good baseball this year, which is crazy because the Mets are a baseball team that everyone suspected would be playing good baseball for a really long time going into the foreseeable future. That was one of the things that we expected from them. Was here's a football team, or here's a baseball team that's going to be playing really good baseball. They went to the World Series and they ended up losing to the Royals 2 years ago. They're in the mix last year, right? They lose to the Cubs, who would eventually win the World Series. So back-to-back years, you lose to the eventual World Series winner. So your team's looking good. And it's not like the Mets were like, okay, this isn't good enough. Let's blow it up. Let's take it apart. This is virtually the same baseball team. Still Matt Harvey, still Cespedes. This is still the baseball team that went to the World Series 2 years ago. Like, they just suddenly forgot how to play baseball. All of them. And probably nobody more so than Matt Harvey. When Matt Harvey had his coming out party 2 years ago, people were calling him the Dark Knight. It was a really cool story, right? He was the Mets ace, and it seemed like a perfect marriage. It seemed like a perfect fit. And now, everything between Matt Harvey and the New York Mets has gotten absolutely weird. Just strange beyond all imaginings, right? So you had the other day, and I didn't want to talk about the story because it's about the Mets, and like, I just don't care, and I don't think that anybody around here cares about the Mets, but then the story just got super weird, so I had to talk about it because I thought, well, someone's got to be interested in this. Matt Harvey gets suspended 3 days without pay, and like files a grievance against the team for suspending him. Then it comes out that the team suspends Matt Harvey for breaking team curfew, right? Like, he broke team rules. They have a curfew. There's a time that you have to be in. Go to bed. We need you at your best. You're our ace. Stop partying at night, right? Like, go to bed, okay? Which is not something you should have to legislate for grown men, but they do. Whatever. Really, I assume it's for the young guys on the team of which Matt Harvey is not any longer, but fine. He was out beyond curfew. And you're just like, okay, that's strange. And then, like, he files the grievance. Then he ends up dropping the grievance because, of course, he's wrong. He should have been back. Those are the team rules. You know the team rules. Matt Harvey was at a club, at some elite nightclub in New York somewhere, partying until 4 a.m. in the morning like some kind of college frat boy. And I don't know how, when you're a grown man who's a professional getting paid millions of dollars, how that kind of plays into it. Because that's not something that you would ever see out of LeBron James. That's not something that you would ever see out of Lionel Messi or any other professional athlete who is considered one of the best at his craft in the world. And here's Matt Harvey, like some kind of grown man child, partying out until 4 a.m. in the morning. And then you've got that. And he comes out and he admits in what has to be one of the most awkward press conferences of all time that actually, yes, I am sorry. I did go partying. My bad. What? That doesn't even make sense. And again, the press conference is super weird and super awkward. And it's easily the most awkward press conference I have ever seen since the Raiders fired Lane Kiffin. The Raiders firing Lane Kiffin, that is the most awkward press conference of all time. You can look it up on YouTube. It looks like it was filmed in the 1970s for some reason. My point is, this one was also strange. It was Matt Harvey basically admitting that he lied about all the things that he honestly said that he was right about. And he's backtracking and walking back statements and left and right. And it's strange. You do a little bit more digging into Matt Harvey this season, and you get to the weirdest stuff. Like, Matt Harvey was dating Adriana Lima, who is a supermodel, right? She's very stunning, and Julian Edelman used to be her boyfriend, and then she started dating Matt Harvey, and then Matt Harvey was playing Atlanta. He was playing the Braves, and he was pitching that day. Meanwhile, Julian Edelman goes to the Met Gala with Adriana Lima, right? The supermodel. And Matt Harvey is so depressed, right? He's so depressed that Adriana Lima is back together with Julian Edelman. He can't pitch a good game. He gives up, by my expert calculations, about a zillion runs, ends up getting pulled from the game because he was too distraught to pitch properly. Now, things in life can be hard, right? You can't actually be too distraught to work. If there's a death in the family, if you're going through a divorce, that can hurt you. That can make life really hard to deal with, really hard to handle. I understand. Matt Harvey and Adriana Lima went on a few dates. They were not dating. That wasn't his girlfriend. That wasn't his wife. They went on some dates. And maybe Matt Harvey thought that this was going to go further than it did. But man, to be so distraught that she decided, I want to go back to my ex-boyfriend, that you can't do your job correctly over that. Like, what does Matt Harvey do when Matt Harvey has actual problems pop up in his life? Oh, yeah. He parties until 4 a.m. in the morning like he's a giant kid. Like, you have a curfew, man. If you know what the rules are, follow the rules. And here's the thing, and the only reason why this is such a huge deal is because he is the ace of the team. He's the pitcher. Everyone knows what your job is about on that team. This is not acceptable. It wouldn't be acceptable if it was a quarterback. You couldn't, like, Tom Brady would never do that because he would never get away with it. There is not a quarterback who can get away with it, right? Like, we didn't even let Johnny Manziel get away with it, and we all know that he had problems. You live in the age of social media, you cannot do it. Right? Joe Namath got to do it, but Joe Namath didn't live in the age of social media. Bart Starr got to do it, but Bart Starr didn't live in the age of social media. You, however, Matt Harvey, live in the age of social media. So guess what? You can't go partying until 4 a.m. I don't know if you want to stay up until 4 a.m., watch a movie, pull up Netflix, find something else to do. Don't be out beyond curfew till 4 a.m. in the morning. And to me, anyway, even if you were going to be distraught and you know you have to work in the morning, go to bed. It's what the rest of us do. Like, that's the rest of us manage to do this. We go to bed, right? People go through breakups and relationships ending all the time. They manage to go to work and not get fired. They manage to do the things that their employers ask them to do. Right? Like, I've had relationship problems before, and I still have to come on this radio show and basically have an energy level that is the opposite of what I am feeling. And I never complain about it. Never. You know why? Because I like my job. Even if you don't like your job. I used to work at a Domino's Pizza. I never felt good working there. I hated every day of working there. But you know what? When the customer walks through the door and you're standing at the cash register, you hit them with that smile. You know why? Because you get paid to do a job. So you, being a professional athlete, what makes you think you're different? If anything, it's worse. You get paid millions to pitch a baseball. The least you could do, the very least you could do is be in bed by 4 a.m, okay? Because here's the deal. They're going to pay you regardless if you pitch poorly, right? Like, if you're just too distraught to pitch well, which is not even something I understand. It's so insane. Like, you're just distraught over this woman that you went on like 4 dates with, right? Like, it's not, you didn't promise to spend the rest of your lives together. You went on like 4 dates. You're so distraught over that you can't pitch well, but at least you showed up. Like, the least you can do is go to bed, right? Like, eat healthy, go to bed, do the little things it takes to be at least an average Major League Baseball pitcher. And then, you know what? If you go out there and pitch and they light you up, then they light you up. And I don't know what else to say about that. Now, because you're being such a head case, you're not tradable. The team has no idea what to do with you. You don't know what to do with you. And like, forgetting me, America's confused at all of your actions. Like, talk about things that make no sense. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240. And 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. I appreciate everybody that took the time to listen, however they chose to listen, whether on the radio, 92.7 FM, AM 1240, on our website, NoogaRadio.com, or if you click the YouTube link and follow us. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you all in 24 hours.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops a right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
The voice of NASCAR.
What? Oh no, I can't believe my phone screen is cracked. I cracked it. I can't believe my screen is cracked. I need my phone.
Whoa. Slow down, wild man. We've got an easy solution. Cell Surgeon in Ottawa. Your cell phone repair doctor is on the job. Cell Surgeon in Ottawa. Check out our brand new location. Just off I-75, Old Lee Highway next to Zaxby's. That's right, your cell doctor in Ottawa, Cell Surgeon, most of the time can fix your smartphone on the spot. Your cell phone repair doctor is on the job. Cell Surgeon in Ottawa. Check out our brand new location. Just off I-75, Old Lee Highway next to Zaxby's. Cell Surgeon for all your cell needs. Most repairs are performed in less than an hour. TheCellSurgeon.com. Go to TheCellSurgeon.com.
Daisy, get my cell phone out of your mouth right now.
Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Picture that curl of steam rising from your fresh-made pizza. And in a flash, let it take you aloft, teasing all your senses. I'm talking about Jet's Pizza. If you eat out at Jet's in Hickson or take home your steaming deep dish square pizza, you'll love Jet's. They use only the best ingredients in a family recipe. Also try the cheesy bread, wings, chicken, or bread with bacon, antipasta or Greek salad. Jet's Pizza at Buy Low near the S-Curves. Open till 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. You can order online or have it delivered. jetspizza.com. That's jetspizza.com. Or call them now. They'll have it ready when you get there. 757-1616. That's 757-1616.
Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Final expenses, funeral cost, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
Been a customer at SNS